Hi everyone. So we are starting our webinar about execution of UFT or QTP scripts with Rapise. And my name is still Alexey. I'm in Inflectra for over 20 years, in software testing over 20 years, in software development over 20 years, and 12 years in the testing automation. And most of this time I'm working in Inflectra. So the plan for today's webinar is we will talk about how is it possible to do some conversion or transfer of your existing infrastructure of test cases that are currently executed with UFT or with QTP. Then we will talk about what do you need to have to be able to execute the tests in some other way, and how to actually perform the conversion, how to transfer them from old state to new state. And finally, we will summarize this knowledge, and I will demonstrate some live example of conversion and execution of the test case. So this is the plan. And the first topic is possible options for script conversion. And initially we had some light conversion in Rapise, and its purpose was to transfer between the UFT style, and those of you who worked with UFT before should understand this line with WPF window, WPF edit. So we have window, then dialog, then control, then some action. That sets this value John to the edit field agent name. So the first way of transfer is to transfer it to Rapise style. So the second line here, we starting with SAS is actually Rapise style of doing the same. With Rapise, we just refer to the object and mention the action. And action usually starts with do. So SAS, agent name, do set text, John. So these two lines are doing the same, although the look of them is different. So if you are familiar with UFT and not familiar with Rapise, this kind of translation is sort of tricky and hard to understand and hard to read. And since we are talking about conversion of larger test frameworks implemented in UFT, so you are probably really involved in UFT, you're at some expert level, or you have large experience with that, and you're really familiar with that, and switching to this completely new syntax may be something really hard, so it may be a showstopper. So we realize that we should do conversion in some other way. So another option is just to create the test from scratch using another testing tool. And that may be fine for smaller projects, and we may even recommend to do that. Simply try to recreate the test design, test framework design, record or write some scripts and implement them from scratch. But if it only makes sense if your projects are small and you may have like 10 test cases overall. So it's for smaller use cases. And the final option that we will be talking about is to actually try to make converted scripts as close to UFT as possible. So you may see again the same line for UFT, the first line, and the same line converted to Rapise. So Rapise actually may execute this second line, and you may see it's really, really close to what you see in UFT. And this type of conversion tries to keep those people who were creating those tests in UFT to stay familiar with the same tests converted to Rapise. So you have some sort of inheritance of knowledge, and you may be more or less sure that the script is doing exactly the same as it was doing in like previous execution tool. So that's important for larger projects, so you have less threats that during the conversion some essential logic has been lost. So to summarize, we are talking about the third way of conversion, which means try to emulate UFT behavior right in Rapise and try to make the script as close to UFT as possible. And we will show you how it all looks later in the demo section. Now, what would you need to do this conversion? Of course, you will need UFT. So in the initial stage, you still need UFT to start conversion. Of course, you need Rapise, which the tool that will be used for execution. You will need a converter. It's a special thing, and we will show it to you. Actually, converter itself is sort of script for Rapise that is doing this conversion. And final thing that is really good to have is Excel. It would be needed if your scripts are using the data tables built into UFT. Some data tables there, they have extension XLS, which means Excel file, although they look like sort of broken XLS, and the Microsoft Excel may easily fix those, although Excel libraries that we have, some of them complain about that. So the converter uses Excel internally to fix the format of those Excel files and data tables to be able to execute them. So the conversion host should have all these four things installed. Then, overall flow of the conversion is the following. First, we need to prepare UFT tests. So there are some preconditions that should be met by the tests to be able to convert. Then, the converter needs to be pre-configured or prepared to be able to work with it. And we will talk about that and demonstrate it. Finally, the converter does its work. It makes the conversion and what we need to do to execute the test. And this conversion and execution may be iterative process due to some ambiguities or potential problems that exist in the source test. We will talk about it and show some examples a bit later. And so usually we try to fix everything in a way that you don't change the scripts after they converted to Rapise. So we either change converter or we change the source scripts in UFT. And so we changed source script in UFT, make sure it still works in UFT, so we didn't break anything, and the converted version should just work in Rapise. So this is the way how the conversion logic, conversion process should be set up. So let's start with these steps. The first step is preparing UFT test. What does it mean? Sometimes you have UFT tests stored in ALM. In this case, we require you to export everything that is stored in ALM to the local folder. So exported test should have everything it needs to execute in some folder. The exported test should be executable and it should pass. That's really important. So the host for conversion should be able to execute the script, and this script should not depend on UFT. On ALM. So that's why there is an export option in ALM. It's sometimes tricky. It's sometimes hard to extract some files, but it still needs to be done to make sure the script doesn't depend on anything that is stored like remotely, and we cannot reach it. And then all the tests, you may have many tests stored in different things, in different places, sharing some common things, sharing some common libraries. So it's recommended to put everything into the common folder structure, where you have all the test cases, maybe data files, maybe external libraries or common libraries, everything stored within that folder to make everything available for the converter. And let me show you let me start showing the testing stand that I prepared for today. So what we have a folder here. In this folder, we have the subfolder converted, and inside this folder we have these the set of UFT tests, and the converter is the tool that is doing this conversion. So inside this converted, I have just one test framework solution. It's UFT test framework solution, and I may just open it. It's already extracted. It's just the sample that comes with UFT. But what is important here, all the tests, all the test cases, all the common libraries, all the files are here inside this folder and may be executed. So I may simply open this this test solution using UFT. Opening UFT. It's called application E2E flows. And now just opening. That's it. So it opens the test case, open solution. You actually don't need to have exactly solution. It's optional, but you need to still make sure you have this file structure. So initially, what we have a folder structure that contains some test cases executable by UFT, and all these test cases are passing, no errors, no warnings, no missing something. So everything is here and everything is ready to be converted. So this is our initial stage. I executed everything here. These are common libraries, and these are testing scenarios that we will be working with. Okay, let me hide the video to make the screen wider, because we are demonstrating something. And let me proceed. Okay, so we prepared everything. Then we need to prepare the converter. The converter, and this preparation requires some interaction with Inflectra. So actually, it's supposed that we are helping you to prepare the converter. Actually, we are creating the version of converter that you use that you start using to convert your scripts. We do it by analyzing several test cases and making all necessary settings required to enable this conversion process. So, as I said, we have the folder converter, and it contains the project for Rapise converter. I also have a link on the desktop for the same project, so I will maybe using that in the future. So the converter itself is here. And the configuration, what we mean by configuration is this. So we first define which Rapise libraries needs to be used to execute this specific test. In this particular case, it's a simple UI automation test. So we just used UI automation libraries. Although we may use web, we may use Java, we may use some other Rapise libraries to replicate the functionality of some UFT connectors or plugins. Then we define the folder where our initial test cases are stored. And then the converter contains some instructions. First, it contains instructions to convert common repositories. So after looking at these test cases, what we see is that there is a common repository shared among many of the test cases inside this one. So we have an instruction. So this is so we discovered it during initial analysis, and we put this instruction here. Also, we found that there is a shared library. I think we may find it here, functional library, used in some common steps, this one. So we also add an instruction to convert it, because Rapise, it would be converted from, it is a VBS script, Visual Basic script, and it would become a JavaScript. So converter knows how to do that. And finally, we convert some test cases. Some of them are simply common test cases used by other test cases. So we have 3 of them here in this testing framework. It's parameters validation, it's flight leap 1 and flight leap. So you may see flight leap 1, and parameters validation is not included explicitly, but it is available for some of the actions. It's referred from some of the actions here. I will not be looking for it right now, but it was somewhere. So it's referred here, for example, parameters validation. So we convert all these common steps. Then we define which individual test cases to convert. Right now, we have 4 test cases available here. Insert order, open num, open order, and reflect update, report reflect update. And these are mentioned here. So if I run this converter, I already executed it. If I run, it would be working for maybe 10 or 15 minutes for this particular smaller project. So you may see that this conversion is automatic, but a bit time consuming, and will produce something. So let us continue to the presentation here. So once everything is configured, just like we saw it, we press the convert button. We will play. This means play button for this conversion project, and it will start conversion. As I said, it is 10 to 15 minutes, so I won't run it for this whole project right now. I will later do it for like smaller test case. And it would do all the conversion things. It would convert libraries. It would convert shared repositories, because we have an instruction to do that. And it would analyze the test cases. It would convert all the scripts from Visual Basic to JavaScript. It would discover local repositories and also convert those to Rapise object repositories to contain same objects, same checkpoints. And finally, it would check the data files and convert them using the Excel that is installed on the host. So this is the 3rd step. Actually, it's fully automatic. So you just press and wait. So at this step, all you need is to wait, because all the major decisions are done on this step. And then you proceed to the final step, where you have your script converted, and you are supposed to execute that test. And sometimes, oops, sorry. At this stage, it is the most time-consuming stage. You will discover some ambiguities or some problems within the source script, and most of them are caused by Visual Basic language. Also, you will see some things that are related to the script design. For example, encrypted passwords, they are encrypted, and Rapise cannot decrypt them. So you will need to redefine this password to be able to work with them. Also, dictionaries, I will demonstrate what that means. So dictionaries are something usually returned from when you query the record set. a DoDB record set. And there are a few ways on how you may work with them. And some of ways are compatible for conversion and some are not. So it's better to a bit tweak your script to be able to convert it flawlessly. And also some errors that are okay for Visual Basic script. Visual Basic in general is very forgiving. It may let you do some things that are hardly allowed by other scripting languages. So these things need to be somehow tweaked. And finally is corrupted Excel files. So this is the whole process. And usually when you discover that something needs to be changed in Visual Basic script, you go to UFT, you do this change, and you execute the whole conversion again, and then execute the script again. And after several iterations, your script starts working. So it's very rough estimate. Sometimes you need just a couple of executions. Sometimes you need like 20 executions of the script to have it working after conversion. So this is like how it usually looks from the practical point of view. Now let me try to demonstrate what you have in the beginning and what you have in the end. So since we're done with theoretical part, so we have a converter that already did some conversion of these flight samples testing solution. So it is here, and let me open the results of the conversion. So let me close this converter. I already have a link here, but I will use I will open it directly. So converted flight samples. So after conversion, the same folder has a mix. It has both UFT script that is still executable, so you may run all these scripts, and it contains Rapise files for Rapise. For example, library1 QFL is something for UFT, and library1.js is the result of conversion. And also it contains the root project. In this case, it's flight samples. It is a Rapise test script. In this case, it's a test framework. Okay, so we just opened the results of the conversion. So let's have a brief look on how it is organized. So overall, idea is to make it as close to your initial UFT script as possible. So this is UFT, this is Rapise, and you may see that there is flight lib here, and the same flight lib is here in Rapise. Flight lib 1, flight lib 1. So the idea is we expect you to be familiar with UFT in the beginning of this conversion process and much less familiar with Rapise. And that's fine. And with time, you will be more and more familiar with Rapise, and you will be able to do some things in Rapise style. But in the beginning and during the conversion, it's very important to keep everything as close as it were in UFT, just to make those people who are familiar with older version of scripts to stay familiar with newer versions of scripts. So we have these subtests. In Rapise we call it subtests, and in UFT it's test cases. And there is direct one-to-one correspondence. Also, there are additional files like library.js. So it stays right here in the root, and these are Rapise-specific files that are actually required by Rapise project. In addition to that, there is an object.js, which is the repository, object repository, converted to Rapise. And we may actually see this object repository here in the object tree. So if we open the same repository in UFT, okay, it's referred here. So we may see this repository in UFT, and we may see the same here in Rapise. What you may notice is that it's exactly the same. with only difference is that in UFT these are sorted first by object type, so first buttons, then date pickers and so on, and here they are sorted by alphabet in alphabet order. So, for example, here is an agent name, and here is the same agent name. Yeah, here is by name, and somewhere here it is a by name. So all objects are transferred to Rapise. You may use all the things like flash or relearn to further maintain your test after you completely migrate it to Rapise. Next is let's see how individual script is looking. So I'm opening, for example, which one? For example, this one, open numbound. And I'm doing the same here in Rapise. So I may open these subtests in Rapise, and this is what I'm actually doing. So in UFT, what you can see when you open the test case, let me resize this window, is this overview of the test case flow. Yep. So start, then some action, and in Rapise, we reproduce it the same by modifying the start page for specific test. So here we can see that there is an action test case open numbound containing some actions: check open order state, finalize, initialization. So right here again, open numbound and has initialization, check open order state, finalize. So in this case, they are sorted a bit differently by the action order, and these here they are sorted by the action name. Although this is actually two similar views. And if we compare this view, we may find that this view is very similar to this view. Although here it is like tree view structure. So we may see that initialization step calls open application flight leap. Then we have check open order state. So here initialization step calls open application flight leap, and then it calls check open order state. Also, this view is convenient to quickly navigate between test scripts. So I may double click here and get to the script. And this is a JavaScript. So this is a JavaScript implementation of some test action. We may open exactly the same test action, check open order state, here it is, here, and see how similar they are. They are mostly the same and look very similar. Also, I'm not going to just execute the whole this whole test case. Let me just show you some examples of how it may be used, how execution may look. So let me just set a breakpoint somewhere here, like here, and let me do the same here in Rapise. Where is it? Search order, like here. So if I play it with UFT, it opens the application and stops at this point. And I may do steps to go through script. I'm stopping this execution, closing the application under test, and I may do exactly the same with Rapise. So it starts an application, enters login credentials. Oh, I didn't enable debug mode, sorry. Let me stop this. I can enable debugger to stop on the breakpoint. So I terminated it. Oops. Again, the same is executed with debugger, and I stopped at this similar line here, and I may do exactly the same. I can step over statements using this step in, step out, step over statement, and execute my script line by line. Again, this step is quite trivial, although there are like more sophisticated ones that, for example, use output variables like here, or calling libraries. And all these may be debugged and executed with Rapise, just exactly as is. For example, retrieve order number. If I navigate to this symbol, I'm getting to converted version of library 1. And this library 1, you may see its sources were converted like that. If I look at same library here, again, I may compare and see and find that they are really similar to each other, left and right one. And this is a great example of the results of conversion. And of course, these two functions, if we had to write the same using just JavaScript, they would look differently. This could look much simpler if it's pure JavaScript. So the idea is, after converting the tests, you start slowly improving some functions to be more clear, to be more JavaScript specific if it is needed, if you plan to maintain this project in the future. Although in a way like it is right now, it works, and it works in a way that is really close to VB. So it would work. So you will be able to compare execution line by line and to learn how JavaScript is doing the things that you were doing with VB before. Now let's do some more end-to-end demonstration. So for example, we converted several tests. We now sure converter is working. So what we do next? Usually after converting first several test cases, we start adding other test cases from the test framework, because you probably have maybe hundreds or thousands of test cases, and we start with smaller number and then want to expand our conversion. So let me go to let me close Rapise here, and let me do something. So I have additional test cases that are also part of the flight lead sample from UFT. And so I may copy this one of the test cases and put it into the destination folder where I have my converted testing project. So it now is here, it's properly placed inside the structure, and I may include it to the source solution. Add existing test, login boundary, add. Okay, it's very simple. This is because conversion is time consuming, so we want to just show very quick scenarios that are easy to demonstrate. Now, what I'm doing, I need to execute it to make sure this scenario works in UFT. Step number 1 in our conversion process. Okay, so it logged in as some user and checked that login functionality is working properly. Great. So now let me go to the converter and tell it that I want to convert this test. Launching converter. Okay, closing some additional windows. So here is the converter, and what I want to do, I want to add one more UFT test to the conversion, which is login boundary. And since I already have all these common things and some other test steps converted, just commenting this so to save the time. So I know this is converting, I know it is working, so I will just execute this last part of the conversion that is supposed to convert this login boundary. Hitting execute here, and converter starts. So right now we see the converter in action. It takes some time, and most of the time it would be doing the VBS script conversion. Okay, it's a bit delayed. Looks like it was closing the UFT. It needed that to access something. So you see it now converting the MTS files, which are actually Visual Basic scripts. And this is really time consuming, and now it is done. So we have this test case converted, and now we may close this converter and open the Rapise version of the converted testing framework. Go into files. So it's all the same as it was before, and what I want is just to add one more test subtest to the solution. This means I want to add the converted one. It says login boundary. It's now here, available as Rapise subtest. I'm including it to the files view, switching back to included files mode, and that's it. So this is a login boundary. It contains a couple of steps, so I may go there and may see that it is here. So it's very simple. It just contains one step, login errors. So I may simply try to execute it and see if it does the same and if it works in a way similar to UFT. So it logged in successfully. We have an execution report, and let's see how this. So it's passed. So everything is straightforward. Now, if we review this and show the report in hierarchical mode, we may see something more that is more close to the view on the start page. So in Rapise, you may view report in different ways. So the test is login boundary. First, it executed the start action. Then it executed login errors action. And within that action, it executed the application, the demo application. Then it used the editor and set John. Then it entered the password, and then it clicked the OK button. And finally, there was the report event. Let me, oops. I didn't plan to execute it. I want to just open the script itself. This report event, it said login, colon, and then succeeded login as expected. And I may see that line. Oops, I was seeing it when I executed it completely. Let me play it one more time. Okay, switch to hierarchical view. So it says login, succeeded login as expected. So this last line, meaning that the script was successful. So what we just did, we took additional test or test case or scenario from my testing framework and put it inside the already converted structure and executed the converter to produce this Rapise testing script and execute it. And we see that it is working, so we may simply execute and achieve the same result by playing the same script using Rapise. The script is again very similar to what we had in UFT. So this was the end of the demonstration. Here are some slides showing the similarity. I actually showed it in live. So to summarize what I've just demonstrated. First, the converter makes script trying to keep the UFT script structure as much as possible. The same is true with QTP. So for those who are familiar with UFT and with specific testing framework, they should find itself familiar with the structure of the same testing framework converted to Rapise. The converter itself may need some tuning, and there are many details that I didn't deeply go into, but that needs to be polished a bit to have the converter and converter script to work properly. So after converter is tuned, it may work automatically. So it may even fix some VBS sinks because it understands VBS, and if it may be tuned on the converter level to completely transfer the script to the new structure. And still some minor tweaks may be needed to the source scripts for the scripts to be converted. Although these tweaks keep the source scripts working in UFT, so in the initial stage, you have scripts working both in UFT and Rapise. And once it's stable, once it's working, you may run it on another host which has only Rapise and have no dependence on UFT at all. Okay. So thank you for attending this webinar. Thank you for interesting questions. I hope it was useful, and I hope you will find this feature potentially useful in your situation, and hope to see some of you contacting us and looking for real conversion. Thank you for attending. Thank you for being with us today. Have a good day. Bye.